June 1979, one of Hollywood's biggest legends has just died. The funeral is packed with A-listers, cameras flashing, tears flowing. But look closer at the guest list, and you'll notice something shocking. 6 major Hollywood stars are conspicuously absent, not because they were out of town, not because they didn't get the memo. They chose not to come. And the reason why reveals one of the most explosive ideological battles in Hollywood history. John Wayne wasn't just an actor. He was an institution, a walking, talking symbol of everything America claimed to stand for in the 20th century. But here's the thing about symbols. They're polarizing. And when the Duke took his final bow, not everyone in Hollywood was willing to stand up and applaud. Today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating stories of Hollywood division you've probably never heard. We're talking about the actors who looked at John Wayne's funeral invitation and said, "Thanks, but no thanks." These weren't nobodies. These were legends in their own right. Oscar winners, cultural icons, voices of a generation. And their absence spoke louder than any eulogy ever could. So buckle up, because we're about to explore the life, the controversies, and the lasting legacy of a man who divided Hollywood right down the middle, even in death. Let's rewind to 1907. A baby boy is born in a tiny Iowa town, and his parents name him Marion Robert Morrison. Yeah, you heard that right. The toughest guy in Hollywood started life with a name that sounds like it belongs to a librarian. But life has a funny way of reshaping us, doesn't it? Young Marion's family eventually packed up and headed west to Southern California, chasing the American dream like millions of others. The kid showed serious potential, smart enough to excel in school, athletic enough to score a football scholarship to USC. Everything was looking up. Then came the injury that changed everything. One bad hit on the football field, and suddenly those dreams of gridiron glory were shattered. But here's where the story gets interesting. Instead of giving up, Marion found himself drawn to the movie studios. He started doing odd jobs at Fox Film Corporation, moving equipment, building sets, whatever needed doing. He was learning the business from the ground up, literally. And that's when fate intervened in the form of director John Ford. Ford saw something in this strapping young man that others missed. Maybe it was the way he carried himself. Maybe it was that natural charisma that couldn't be taught. Whatever it was, Ford took Marion under his wing and started molding him into something special. But success didn't come overnight. Throughout the 1930s, Marion, now going by John Wayne, grounded out in B-movie after B-movie, cheap westerns that most people forgot the second they left the theater. He was paying his dues, learning his craft, developing that iconic presence that would eventually make him a household name. Then 1939 rolled around and everything changed. Ford cast Wayne in Stagecoach, and suddenly the struggling actor became a bona fide star. As the Ringo Kid, Wayne found his signature blend, tough but vulnerable, confident but approachable. Audiences ate it up. The cowboy hero had arrived, and he was here to stay. What followed was nothing short of spectacular. Over the next 4 decades, Wayne became a box office juggernaut, appearing in over 170 films. He wasn't just making movies, he was shaping American culture. His collaborations with John Ford produced some of the greatest films in cinema history. The Searcher stands out as particularly significant. In this 1956 masterpiece, Wayne played Ethan Edwards, a character far more complex and morally ambiguous than his typical heroes. It was a performance that showed Wayne could do more than just shoot bad guys and ride off into the sunset. He could act, really act. Think about it. Wayne spent years being typecast as the straightforward hero, the guy who always knew right from wrong. But in The Searchers, he portrayed a man consumed by obsession and prejudice, someone who blurred the lines between hero and anti-hero. Critics today consider it one of the most influential westerns ever made, and Wayne's performance is a huge reason why. Beyond westerns, Wayne proved he had remarkable range. He could do comedy and did it well. Films like McClintock showed his lighter side, his ability to poke fun at his own tough guy image. He could be tender and reflective when the role demanded it. He wasn't a one-trick pony, even if that's how some critics tried to paint him. But Wayne became more than just a cowboy star. He dominated war films, too, playing steadfast military leaders who embodied duty, honor, and sacrifice. Movies like The Sands of Iwo Jima earned him critical acclaim and his first Oscar nomination. In that film, Wayne played a hard-nosed Marine sergeant who pushes his men to their limit, and the emotional depth he brought to the role surprised audiences who thought they had him figured out. He wasn't just entertaining people, he was reinforcing certain values, certain ideas about what it meant to be American. His other war films, The Longest Day, In Harm's Way, and The Green Berets, all presented Wayne as the unwavering leader, the man who carried the weight of responsibility without flinching. These weren't just action movies, they were cultural statements about masculinity, patriotism, and American exceptionalism. In 1969, Wayne finally won the Academy Award for Best Actor, playing the eye-patch-wearing, whiskey-drinking Marshal Rooster Cogburn in True Grit. It was Hollywood's way of saying, "We see you, we recognize what you've built." The Oscar was overdue recognition for a man who'd become synonymous with American cinema itself. His final film, The Shootist, in 1976, carried devastating poignancy. Wayne played an aging gunfighter dying of cancer, which hit particularly hard because Wayne was battling the disease in real life. It was art imitating life in the most heartbreaking way possible.
Now, if you think Wayne's on-screen life was dramatic, wait until you hear about what happened when the cameras stopped rolling. Wayne's personal life read like a soap opera. 3 marriages, 7 children, and enough romantic drama to fill a dozen movies. His first marriage to Josephine Sayens lasted 12 years and gave him 4 children, but the pressures of Hollywood fame eventually tore them apart. His second marriage to Mexican actress Esperanza Chata Bauer was a disaster. We're talking explosive fights, jealousy, constant drama. It was passionate, sure, but passion doesn't always equal happiness. They divorced after years of turbulence, both emotionally exhausted. Then came Pilar Palete, a Peruvian actress who brought some stability to Wayne's chaotic personal life. They had 3 more children together and stayed married for 19 years, though they eventually separated. Still, they never officially divorced, maintaining some kind of complicated bond until the end. In his final years, Wayne found companionship with Pat Stacey, his former secretary. She stuck by him through his declining health, offering loyalty and care when he needed it most. She was there until the very end. Here's where things get really interesting and really uncomfortable. John Wayne never pretended to be anything other than what he was, and what he was, by today's standards, was deeply problematic. In a notorious 1971 Playboy interview, Wayne made statements that would haunt his legacy forever. He spoke about white supremacy, about taking land from Native Americans, about his opposition to civil rights movements. These weren't off-the-cuff remarks taken out of context, they were his beliefs, stated plainly and without apology. Wayne was also one of Hollywood's most vocal supporters of the Vietnam War, at a time when many of his peers were actively protesting it. He saw anti-war protesters as traitors. He believed in America first, America always, America without question. This wasn't just political conservatism, this was a complete worldview that put him at odds with a growing portion of Hollywood's creative community. While the 1960s and 70s saw massive cultural shifts, Wayne dug his heels in and refused to budge an inch. So when John Wayne died on June 11, 1979, at age 72, succumbed to stomach cancer at UCLA Medical Center, Hollywood faced a dilemma. How do you honor a legend whose politics you despise? The funeral at Our Lady of the Angels Church in Los Angeles drew plenty of mourners, but the absence of certain stars was deafening. Jane Fonda staying away was the least surprising. During the Vietnam War, Fonda had become one of the most visible anti-war activists in America. Wayne, meanwhile, was virtually the poster boy for supporting the war. According to reports, Wayne had confronted Fonda harshly at a social gathering, making their mutual contempt crystal clear. Fonda attending his funeral would have been a betrayal of everything she'd fought for, so she didn't. Marlon Brando represented everything Wayne wasn't: politically progressive, critical of American imperialism, and a fierce advocate for Native American rights. Brando had famously refused his own Oscar to protest Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans. He saw Wayne's westerns as glorifications of genocide, celebrations of conquest that whitewashed historical atrocities. There was no way Brando was showing up to honor that legacy. Paul Newman kept his politics more private, but he was deeply involved in liberal causes, civil rights, anti-war movements, humanitarian work. Wayne had publicly mocked liberal actors, dismissing them as pretenders and pseudo-intellectuals. Newman never engaged in public feuds with Wayne, but he kept his distance in life. That distance remained in death. Burt Lancaster was intellectually engaged, politically aware, and vocally opposed to the McCarthyism that Wayne had supported. Lancaster believed actors had a responsibility to challenge authority and question power. Wayne believed in defending authority without apology. They could respect each other's craft without respecting each other's principles. The funeral was where that line was finally drawn. James Garner had actually served in the military, but he came away from that experience disillusioned with war glorification and rigid patriotism. He later described Wayne as a talented actor, but someone he fundamentally disagreed with. Garner resented what he saw as Wayne's tendency to equate dissent with disloyalty. Skipping the funeral was Garner's quiet way of maintaining his independence. Harry Belafonte was a close ally of Martin Luther King Jr. and a lifelong civil rights activist. Wayne's comments about race relations, his dismissive attitude towards civil rights struggles, his statements about Native Americans, all of it was unforgivable in Belafonte's eyes. Respecting Wayne's fame didn't mean excusing his beliefs. Belafonte's absence was a powerful statement. Some things matter more than Hollywood courtesy.
Wayne himself seemed to understand that he was divisive. He once said he didn't believe in apologizing for being who he was. That stubbornness was both his strength and his weakness. After his death, Wayne was laid to rest at Pacific View Memorial Park Cemetery in Corona del Mar, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The location was fitting, peaceful, dignified, with that endless horizon that seemed to symbolize the frontier mythology he'd spent his career building. But Wayne's story didn't end with his burial. In February 2019, that infamous Playboy interview resurfaced during our current cultural reckoning. Suddenly, people were asking hard questions. Should John Wayne Airport in Orange County be renamed? His son Ethan defended him, arguing that judging someone based on one interview taken out of context was unfair. The debate intensified during the George Floyd protests in June 2020, with renewed calls to change the airport's name back to Orange County Airport. As of today, the name remains unchanged, yet another example of how Wayne's legacy continues to spark controversy, even decades after his death. So what do we make of John Wayne? How do we process a man who was simultaneously an American icon and a voice for views many now find abhorrent? The truth is, Wayne represents something deeply complicated about American history itself. He embodied values that millions cherished: courage, self-reliance, patriotism, traditional masculinity. But those same values, taken to their extreme, also justified conquest, marginalization, and resistance to social progress. The actors who refused to attend his funeral weren't being petty or disrespectful. They were making a moral choice. They were saying that fame and talent don't erase harmful beliefs. They were drawing a line between the art and the artist, between respecting someone's cultural impact and endorsing their worldview. Those empty seats at Wayne's funeral told a story that's still relevant today. They remind us that icons are human, that legends can be flawed, and that sometimes the most powerful statement is silence. John Wayne changed American cinema forever. That's undeniable. But he also represented ideas that many found, and still find, deeply troubling. His legacy isn't simple, and maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe those contradictions are exactly what make his story worth examining. What do you think? Can we separate the art from the artist? Should we rename places that honor controversial figures? Or is erasing their names erasing history itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear both sides of this debate. And if you found this story as fascinating as I did, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's most controversial moments. We're living in a time when we're re-examining our heroes, questioning our icons,
and asking hard questions about who deserves to be celebrated and why. John Wayne's story sits right at the heart of that conversation. Thanks for watching, and remember, history isn't just about the facts, it's about how we interpret them, what we choose to honor, and what we choose to question. See you in the next one.